Well guys, yes, today we're building a PC in a wooden case, which might seem counterintuitive as wood doesn't really transfer heat properly, but what we have here today is the CubeOR Kanto m-atx case. And now this thing is made in Finland and it is truly close to a work of art. You will see it once I unbox it, you probably have seen it in the thumbnail. And it's an m-atx case with a unique design which still supports big GPUs, apparently up to 400mm in length. Now we're doing a high performance build in it just to show you guys that no, it's not going to be overheating. However, we did choose a few things to make our job easier. Okay, now this thing supports for a 240mm only one cooler as well if you want, but we are going air cooled with this AsiaHorse CP200 air cooler, all black, it's new, and we're pairing it with some AsiaHorse extensions. AsiaHorse makes for some really good aesthetic stuff, so I think it's gonna be a good pair for this, because this can be had in many different colors. You will see it on their website, but basically you can get it in more brighter colors or darker colors. What we've had here today should be the birch with the Betula wood, but we will see, but it should pair nicely with this and with our motherboard, which is gonna be this Biostar B650M. Now we've had on the channel before their entry-level A620, and we have proved that even with an 8-core 16-threaded Ryzen, this thing is not going to be overheating. Now, this board is better than the previous one, and we're also using a CPU which draws less power while it goes faster, which is the Ryzen 7 7800X3D. Now, those chips are the absolute efficiency king for the current gen. They absolutely destroy the i9-14900K in power per watt metrics, and honestly they are overall really nice. The only issue is the XD cache isn't really consistent in every game, but all in all, great CPUs, and they can handle all the way up to a 4090. Speaking of which, I actually intended to make this build with an RTX 4070 Super, but unfortunately I wasn't able to find one. Even though Kingston was trying to help me find one, we weren't able to actually get one, so I got what I think is the best value for money card, and it's even better than the RTX 4070 Super, especially now at launch prices where it's hard to find. And that is the RTX 3090. This thing has 24 gigs of VRAM and it goes very fast, especially after you tune it, as we show on the channel, with undervolting, overclocking of both this and the Ryzen. It's gonna be very good. The RTX 4070 Super would be a very good fit as well, and this case can accommodate for it. Now, the only thing left is the RAM and storage compartment, and we have that covered by Kingston, which very gently sent us these, as well as a few other things, a few flash drives, an SSD for testing. You will see those on the channel as well. And now this is a top of the line Renegade SSD, and it's a gaming series of SSD, which is obviously very good for productivity as well. We got a 2TB model at 7300MB speed, and then we've got the newest memory chips from Kingston, still from the Renegade series. And now these, I've gotten the 6000 MHz mega transfers, I should say, version, because we are on Ryzen, and so if you're getting a Ryzen platform, you don't want to go higher than 6000. I find it's very hard to get it stable, just memory controller limiting. But now these, what I have in my hand right now is 100GB of RAM, because they changed the memory production, and so the old 2x16 version is getting phased out, and they're introducing 2x24 to make for 48 gigs of RAM, but they also made the high density stuff, which is going to replace 64GB version with this 96 gigs version. So without further ado, I say we get unboxing and we get building. Okay, SATA cables, things for the M.2, guide, IO shield, and our actual board. Now, something crazy is Biostar actually updates their motherboard, so this thing is already compatible with the X3D chips. So we don't have to update the BIOS, we can just go ahead and install it. Now guys, these 2TB drive is going to be perfect in a high-end board because they have heatsinks. But this is the non-heatsinked version, and this board is cheap, so we don't have, unfortunately, the heatsink included. So what we're going to do is use a product I took a look at a while ago, which is a Silence SSD cooler. This thing will transform this beast into an RGB and better cooled beast. A 100GB of RAM. Man, this module is thick. Okay, so AsiaHorse, a brand of fans and extensions, made a CPU cooler, and it's their CP200. Let's take a look at it. Now, the anime girl on the side wins it for me. We have all the accessories and the actual cooler pre-mounted, which is actually nice. 2 fans, all black exterior. Let's take a look at it closer. It's definitely heavy. It's not the biggest cooler we've seen, but it seems nice. It comes pre-connected. You just have a single cable to attach to your motherboard, and overall it seems nice. Let's take a look at the rest of the package. Mounting kit, and a mystery box, Wandering Knight. Ooh, no way. No, guys, I think I'll buy like 20 and build every PC with this. And then I just pocket all of these and I put like 20 on my desk. Hands down, best packaging of the year, guys. What is this card? It's better than my credit card, just... Okay, the install manual is pretty clear. We have to take those off and install their brackets. Now, usually I recommend you put high performance paste, but today we are testing with the included paste. Now, it has a fan that pushes in and a fan that pushes out. It's actually cool. This is all because I'm lazy, by the way. And it fits perfectly, guys. Okay, so we're doing a quick test boot just before we build everything in a tiny case to ensure that everything is working. And as you can see, I forgot to plug my CPU fan. It's telling us DRAM error, so it should have an issue with our RAM, which might be expected because we have running extremely high capacity RAM, if it makes sense. So it's the exact reason why we're testing it. So we might need to update the BIOS and then put the RAM in, if it makes sense. AMD has a very, very long boot time, and now everything is working perfectly fine. As you can see right here, total memory, guys, crazy number, close to 100 gigs of memory, truly crazy. And now we will just press Y to reset the FTPM. Great stuff, Biostar, by the way. I just want to quickly go in the BIOS and just check that everything is right, everything is recognized. So I can also show you the Biostar BIOS, and then we can go and install this PC where it belongs. And the NvMe is recognized as well, so everything is perfect. Okay, so it is time to open up the case. Now let's see if this thing is actually as good as I think it is, okay? Okay, so the packaging is actually very good. I'm impressed. It has the angles covered. Very, very cool packaging. I can tell this thing is made in Finland. They're very precise people. You know, guys, this thing smells of brand new wood. I wish you could smell it. Guys, it's actually nice. It's really premium. Honestly, it's better than I expected, and I expected very good things from this kind of case. I am at a loss for words. It's incredible. Now, you tell me this is not the coolest thing ever. Now, guys, after my first reaction, which is just completely impressed with this case, let's talk about hardware. Now, it's obvious by the color gamma that basically you only have two choices if you care about aesthetics, okay? So you either go with some Noctua fans, which everybody on the internet is doing, and I have also seen some very cool full Noctua builds, which is great. So yes, we can do that. Or you go with these. Now, Arctic just made their new P12 Max. Now, the Max series from Arctic basically goes faster and slower. So let me explain. It has both higher RPM at maximum and it is quieter for the same performance. And now I have covered Arctic against Noctua in the past, and I honestly have Arctic winning because I think they cost a bit less and they perform as well, and they look much better. But in this build, I think we're actually installing the both of them. But if I had to buy just a single fan, I would buy the P12 Max. Now these, they are just P12 Max in white, so they just look better. And I think they're gonna be very good, honestly. Okay, so this is why we've gotten a white power supply. And this is why, thank God, that LC-Power makes white PSUs, because it will just match the back of the case. So the front panel, which is the top panel, is very minimal. And here, we have our extra components, and we also have the place from which our motherboard will go out. Now guys, look at how much stuff they give you. Now this is why this is a premium case. It is a bit expensive, but I think it's worth the money. They give you basically a full set of zip ties, which I will use for the next 100 build probably. They give you a QR code for the build guide. They give you Velcro straps, which also I will use for basically a lifetime. They give you all the screws, they give you extra brackets, and they even give you this thing to stop the turbulence on your fan, and just extra pieces of hardware. Now the front dust filter is covered in order not to ruin it. Have you ever seen this? No, I haven't. Premium case, nice. Okay, so now we are installing the power supply. You will be able to fully comprehend basically how the internal layout is after I've built it, because it's kind of tricky. But it's basically a vertical, not really like truly vertical mounted GPU, but without an extension, because it has a rotation in the layout. Now it comes with some hard disk bays inside, which I will remove. And from here you can access where the PSU lives. Okay, so generally you would mount your power supply with the fan facing down, but here the bottom is fully covered, so you actually mount it with the fan facing up. Be sure to do it right, because if you do it wrong, you're gonna just destroy your power supply. It's not the easiest install process, but it's definitely doable. Guys, by the way, subscribe to the channel. Come on. I mean, look at the content, look at the quality of the channel. Look at how nice I am. Okay, so here we have the case, and now it's time to mount the motherboard. Pretty simple. We just slide it there and align it in place. And it's ready to go. Now you have to use their screws to mount it. Okay, so with the motherboard in, let's actually discuss our airflow, okay? So basically the GPU is gonna be plugged in this way, right here. So we want these fans to be intake. And now here, since it's see-through, I was thinking maybe the white Arctic fans. Then, since those are intake, we want outtake on top. So not necessarily, but we don't want the airflows to clamp. So here I was thinking outtake, maybe Noctua to give it a touch of color. And then on top we have another either intake or outtake. Now we have the PSU as outtake. So one would think intake, but since this thing is outtake through this way, this one has to be outtake. And we're doing a slight negative pressure build, and I think it's gonna be the best. Okay, so we have the sleeved extensions from AsiaHorse, and we're also gonna plug these. Okay, so we have now installed all the cables with those sleeved cables from AsiaHorse, and they look absolutely nice. The room for cable management in this case is surprisingly good, because as you can see, you basically cannot see them, and over here we will have a grill in the end, so you won't be able to see those as well. We have our front panel connected, our USB-C and USB 3.0 connected, the audio connector in as well, and now it's just a matter of putting in the fans, which is why we're gonna take a look at the new Arctic ones. And here they are. They look really good, and you can already feel like they're heavy blades which push a lot of air. Okay, so we now have all the cables connected with these very nice extensions. We have connected 24 pin as well as the CPU cable, and we mounted all the fans. We also did some cable management behind the scenes. So the only thing that's left is mounting the actual graphic card. Now this thing goes in just straight vertical in this way. So let's go ahead and mount it. So step one is you put it into here, and then you try to get the actual slots. And just like that, GPU is now in. Now it is just a matter of screwing it in place and connecting the cables. Now look at this. They made special holes for the screwdriver to go through, so that the screwing process is relatively easy. So you just go inside from here. Okay, so for the cable management, we have to mount these back. Now we just place it. So they go right there to cover the PSU. And then as you can see, this one has a tiny hole under which you just slide your extensions. And now you can just basically hide all your non-cable managed cables under there, if it makes sense. Which I really like as an approach. So now we just screw it in and plug the cables. Now with the PC fully finished, it is time to actually boot it up and see how it works. But before we do that, we have to mount the dust filter. And now even this thing is premium, which is actually really impressive. I think it looks nice. And here we are with the build finished, running and tested. Speaking of testing, I know you guys really care about gaming performance and just overall benchmarks, so we'll start by getting these out of the way. Now the topic of the video weren't really the CPU and GPU combo, of course the 7800X 3D with the 3090, however these two work very well together, and we tested especially Apex Legends and Warzone, and now in both games we were able to keep over 240 Hz at 1080p. So if you want a PC like this to play high refresh rate 1080p gaming, it's gonna be perfect. In Apex Legends we were able to lock out 300 FPS all the time, even at landing, with just slight occasional and tiny dips. So crazy good experience. And in Warzone, the heavy Warzone with the latest revision, we managed to reach 260 FPS on average, hovering at over 240 FPS all the time. When in the Gulag, even 300 FPS was very much doable. Crazy good performance, and the same can be said in Synthetics, even though honestly in Firestrike the performance wasn't quite what we expected, but that's normal because the beauty of this chip is the 3DV cache, which allows it to boost higher and to beat even an i9 3900K. However, it does so at a cost. Applications that do not utilize 3D V-cache and use just the CPU will actually result in this CPU performing like a normal 8-core 16-threaded CPU, like a Ryzen 7 7700X. It's in gaming that it excels, and it is just a gaming CPU, if it makes sense. We also run another synthetic benchmark. We run just a CPU-Z quick score, and even there, the performance is pretty much in line with the 7700X, which we covered in many builds in the channel in the past. And yes, it's a great CPU. It doesn't really make justice to what this CPU can do. This thing can handle an RTX 4090 with absolute ease, and actually in this build, one tomorrow could just put a 4090 in as an upgrade if one wanted to. Staying on CPU-Z, again, we have the RAM running at full XMP, and now a few words on the RAM, guys. Those 96 GB of Kingston Fury Renegade, they were absolutely amazing. I mean, you know how many issues Ryzen 7000 has with DRAM compatibility. A lot of sticks just don't work, or you cannot load XMP, but with these sticks, we just plug them right in, two very high density sticks, 48 GB each, and we just slotted in the XMP and everything was running flawlessly. So I'm really happy. 6000 MHz is the sweet spot for Ryzen, so I can definitely recommend this kit or the smaller 2x24 GB kit for any single one of you guys who is looking for a memory for the Ryzen AM5 system. Now, speaking of Kingston, even the SSD was absolutely great. With that little tiny silence cooler, we managed to keep it under wraps. We ran a crystal disk mark and we scored 7300 megabytes per second, exactly as they advertise, which is great. Very good read and write, even in 4K. It's just an overall great SSD. I can also recommend this one. We have to give props to the motherboard because a lot of people actually dislike Biostar motherboards, especially here in Italy where I live. I always hear, it's a cheap motherboard, you know, but this is actually a very good motherboard because out of the box, it came with a BIOS that supported the Ryzen 7 7800X 3D, so we did not have to have a different Ryzen to update it, which is good. But even if we did, it comes with a back button to update it with a click, like the flashback features on Asus boards. The BIOS is definitely not the most packed in terms of features, but everything you need is there. Even though the UI is not the best, everything is working flawlessly, and honestly, it gave me absolutely zero issue, so I'm happy with it. It's the second Biostar board we have on the channel. Previous one was actually paired with the Ryzen 7 7700X I was mentioning before, and if you want to see how the cheapest Biostar boards perform, I recommend you go check out that video. But this one, again, easy to use, RAM was working fine, and the CPU ran fine. The CPU didn't even overheat. Now, this CPU is the absolute efficiency king out there, meaning the performance per watts you get on this thing is just completely unbeaten by anything else on the market. We registered around under 100 watts all the time, which is why the AsiaHorse Wandering Knight that we used in today's video was great. I mean, the cooler itself is great, the fans are quiet, but I wouldn't really pair it with an i9 1400K, even though if you undervolt it, it will still run properly. But I think for a build like this, it is absolutely great, and it was running just quiet all the time. It was easy to install. I absolutely love the accessories. As you can see, we now have this cute chibi figure that will stay in my studio with us, so I'm happy. Honestly, if you're looking for an all black cooler, that's the one you should get. That and the Xilinx M906 are my absolute favorite on the market. The extensions from AsiaHorse as well were nice. Nothing to say there. We've had them in the past on the channel. They're good. They work nice. But now let's speak about something that's not cheap, and it's the focus of today's video, the CubeOR Kanto Case. Now, this thing, guys, I kept the best for last, has actually convinced me to recommend it. Yes. Now, this case costs 270 euros, and on Invoting PSUs, I always cover budget builds and how to get stuff for as cheap as possible. So it might be crazy that I'm actually recommending this thing, but kind of like the Asus ROG Matrix video in which I was actually recommending a 3500 euros card, I absolutely recommend this case. Why? Because it has it all. It has the looks, it has the absolutely unique looking aesthetics. I actually showed the case to a few friends and family who don't work with PCs, and they loved it. But the performance in this thing as well is just great. I mean, first off, let's talk compatibility. You can put whatever you want in it. It has a 400mm GPU limit. It even allows you to water cool it with a 240mm all-in-one water cooler plus a 120. So one could even do a custom loop in it with 2 radiators if you really wanted. Even though it doesn't have much space for cable management at the back, everything is routed absolutely great, and the airflow is surprisingly great. Now, you have to build it with logic, because I have seen a lot built wrong on the internet. With this one, with 2 fans as intake on the front, 2 fans as outtake on the back, and the power supply itself acting as outtake with another top fan as outtake, we have a full negative pressure. And what this allows us to do is this allows us to have the air go in from all the holes in the case, which as you can see it's fully meshed, and it actually cools very well. Speaking of thermal performance, again, I have showed this to you before quickly when we were taking a look at the benchmarks, but basically GPU stays at 70 degrees on the full load, and the 3090, guys, is a card that draws a lot of power, and the CPU as well. With the Wandering Knight, it was staying at under 75 degrees all the time, and now usually Ryzen's go all the way up to 85 and the thermal throttle. But this guy doesn't, thanks to the case and the cooler, and thanks to the Arctic P12 Max fans. Now, if you're gonna buy this case, you need the good fans, because the P12 Max from Arctic, even in white, they're actually pretty good value for money. But you do need good fans, and hopefully you won't buy a loud GPU. Why am I saying that? Because if I have to find one thing that's bad about this PC, is that it's fully open. There's not really a closed off panel, because it's all mesh, it's all out in the open. The noise levels are the same as a test bench. So if you have loud hardware inside, it's going to be a tough recommendation for me if you intend on having it on your desk. That's the only real issue. In the configuration we have it here today, it is whisper quiet. It is basically impossible to hear it even under full load after undervolting the GPU. And at this point, the word is to you. Did you like the build? Would you have changed anything? And do you like this case at this price point? Do let me know down below in the comments, and hopefully if you've seen it this far, consider dropping a like and a sub. It really supports the channel, and I hope to see you guys in another video. Bye!